Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am back. Welcome everyone. So, look, guys, today we are talking about the escalating migrant crisis in the West, in the world, in the United Kingdom, and I'm going to put it out there for you guys right from the get-go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but things are going to get worse. Now, there's a few articles that have been released in the last couple of days, 48 hours, in regards to the migrant crisis in northern France, Calais, Dunkirk, that whole region, and they are literally echoing exactly what I said when I went out there. Now, before I get into this live stream and before I, start getting into the weeds of things, the solution, there's only one solution, and this is it. The solution is, if we collectively want to stop the migrant crisis and we want to have some sort of society again where we have a high trust society, which I do, we need to form people. If you want to stop the boats coming over from Calais, you need to form an NGO, a non-government organization. Now that NGO, and I've said this like in other videos, I've done longer pitch videos on that, guys, but what I'm getting at here is, somebody needs to form an NGO. Now, I can set that up myself. That NGO will be responsible for security, monitoring, and cleaning the beaches. That's the only way. It really is, guys. And I'm sorry to say it, but that is the only way. I'm going to come on to facts and figures. In fact, let me put the chat on. I'm going to come on to some facts and figures in a minute from an article released from GB News, but the numbers involved now, guys, all right? Saturation point has been reached. There's no going back, and things are going to get worse. So let me just share, in fact, let me just share with you guys this video first of all. I'm going to share with you guys a video, and then I will. I'll share this video, and then we will be talking about. I will stop this at various points. Hey, so this video is from GB News today. All right. Now, the reason I'm sharing this video is because they're literally saying exactly what I said when I went out to France, how bad the situation is out there. So I will be stopping this at various points, guys, okay? It's a 4-minute video, so I will be, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I will be stopping this at various points. I'll then come onto the chat. I will then hit my opening monologue.
The French authorities have been forced to provide specialist facilities at the biggest migrant camp on the Channel Coast. And our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, joins us now. Mark, it's been a very, very busy time for you, a very busy weekend, over 800 arriving. Tear gas was being fired over in France. And now we have what sounds like a luxury condo, kind of style setup, shower blocks, all the trimmings for the illegal immigrants on the French side there.
Yes, and as you can understand, there'd be a great deal of anger from those that, of course, are critical of the way in which France deals or doesn't deal with the Channel migrant issue.
Look, guys, I'm going to stop it there because, you guys know I went out there. I went out to northern France to have a look at this situation myself. And there's a lot more complexities to this. There's a lot more complexities to this than these GB News reporters are talking of. One of the things I identified, literally, like a student, and you can never, unless you've been somewhere and witnessed it firsthand, you can never really, you can't really articulate those finer points. So, for example, when I'm talking about conflicts, when I'm talking about wars, when I'm talking about tactics, straight away, I knock those facts and figures out. I tell you guys where things are going to go. So with this migrant crisis in northern France, which is where it needs to be stopped, the local population, it's something that I didn't even consider. So now you've got this situation, right, where you've got French police And they are trying to look after, and they are trying to bring down the crime rate. And look, guys, they're going to talk about the crime rate in a minute. So I'm just going what they're saying on this video. So anybody wants to knock on the door and say, oh, Sean's been saying the migrants in northern France are causing crime. No, I'm saying that that's what they're saying on GB News, and I'm just reporting on that. So isn't it mad that I have to do that? Isn't it crazy, guys, that I'm scared of getting arrested, so I have to caveat everything I say? So if you're a police officer in northern France, and just for example, say you've got a migrant camp of, I don't know, 10,000 people, right, in northern France. And I don't think those numbers are far wrong. I don't know the official numbers. I can't find them. They're certainly not published. And even if they are published, they will be wrong. So hypothetically, let's just say you've got a migrant camp of 10,000 people, all right? And the crime rate is X. And what you notice over time, and this is just total speculation, but what you notice is the less people in that migrant camp, the less crime and the less public order offences in and around those villages. All right? Let's just say that that's a thing. I don't know if that is. Let's just pretend it is. Let me know in the comments if you think it is or not. So now you're a French police officer and your job is to bring down crime, okay? You've literally got, French, the people who live in northern France phoning you up. You've got old ladies, you've got women, you've got children scared. They want to bring that crime rate down in northern France. They do. They're going to want to bring it down in northern France. And if there is some correlation between the more people in these migrant camps, the higher the crime rate, the higher the public order rate, then it would make sense to lower the population in those migrant camps, right? It would make perfect sense. So now you have this situation where 700 of them, like I think did he say, I can't remember whether he said 700 or 800. I think 700 today and then 800, whatever he said. That's what I think he said, 800 today and 700 like a couple of days ago. I can't remember. But now you've got a scenario where if 800 of them want to leave in one day, and hypothetically, potentially, for entertainment purposes, that's going to lower the crime rate. Of course, you're going to let those people go. And it's all well and good us here in the United Kingdom saying, oh, it's the French's fault. Those French people shouldn't be doing that. And look, guys, I don't particularly. I will cut the French no slack. I won't. I will cut the French no slack. I'm giving you guys the real, honest ground truth of these, these articulations, why people are doing things.
Also from local people in that area.
Sorry, they're talking now about the local people in that area, which is exactly what I was talking about when I went out there, like whenever I went out there.
An issue, and also from local people in that area who are dealing with violence night after night. First of all,
so just to be clear, I'm not saying that the local people are dealing with violence night after night in northern France. He's saying it, all right? So anybody who's going to get me done and tell Keir Starmer that I've been saying that the migrants are causing violence night after night in northern France, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this guy in GB News is, all right? So Mike White, go and arrest him.
We can show you some images now of these toilet blocks and also showers that are being erected at the camp. The camp itself is Lune Plage.
So this Lune Plage, that is the migrant camp that I went to, like whenever I went there.
Which is just near Dunkirk. And what they're saying is that they are now fitting multiple toilets, 22 already. It will soon, we're told, be 60 toilet blocks within this camp. In addition to that, there'll be shuttle buses that are going to take migrants to nearby shower facilities and also gym facilities. There you're looking at skips, special skips that have been installed so that they will have regular refuse collections to ensure that things don't get too untidy and dirty within the camps itself. I mean, the thing about this is, as far as the French authorities used to say, and certainly the UK authorities, it's all about trying to make things as, difficult for the migrants as possible in terms of there being a disincentive from crossing the channel.
So what they're talking about there is a disincentive to cross the channel. Now, if there's a disincentive to cross the channel, i.e. they're going to get sent back, they won't make the journey to northern France. They won't be in northern France because they can't get over the channel. Now, what you have is these NGOs, non-government organizations, and I don't know where they get their funding from. Honestly, I don't know, probably UK taxpayers or whatever. Probably, it's probably a lot of it comes from Chatham House. But these non-government organizations, they really are supporting these people, and they're making these facilities better. So when that happens, people say, oh, we're not going to go to northern France. It's freezing. There's no running water. There's no, there's no accommodation. There's no toilets. There's no showers. Well, it turns out, these NGOs, I'm going to assume they're NGOs, these NGOs are putting these in there. Look, guys, if you're joining us for the first time, the solution to this is to make our own NGO, our own non-government organization, where we can start combating these. So now, as an NGO, so for example, right, if we were an NGO, right, what we could do right now, we could go to this toilet block and we could inspect this toilet block and say, right, these toilets are not fit for service. These toilets need to be this. These toilets need to be that. These toilets are not up to this standard. These toilets are not being cleaned. And we can really put pressure on those people. And look, it's not the best solution. It's a fucking, it shouldn't have to be done. But the only way that we're going to stop the boats is if we can form collectively another non-government organization that can challenge these people. And that's the reality, guys. That is the reality of the situation.
You are providing these facilities of toilets, shuttle buses to shower blocks and gyms that they can go to, refuse collections, allowing the charities in there to...
So he's talking about charities. I think what he means is the non-government organizations, but they're the same thing.
Set up their feeding stations, then it's anything but that. And as far as local residents are concerned, Martin, they are outraged because they are putting up with this kind of violence night after night.
Did you hear that? I'll rewind it.
They're outraged because they are putting up...
Sorry, a bit further.
...stations, then it's anything but that. And as far as local residents are concerned, Martin, they are outraged because they are putting up with this kind of violence night after night. I think we can...
So what he's saying there, that the local residents are outraged because they're putting up with this violence night after night. Look, imagine, right? Imagine wherever you live, right? Wherever you live. Imagine that night after night, you are putting up with this violence, For example, you may or may not have migrants trying to get into your house. You may or may not have migrants defecating on your street. You may or may not have groups of young North African, Sub-Saharan African, all sorts of people marching through your streets en masse chanting. Can you imagine the fear? Can you imagine the absolute fear that these people are living in? And look, guys, I'm Team GB. I'm Team GB. You can, when I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm giving you guys the objective analysis, okay? The migrant crisis is going to get worse. It's going to get worse, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And I'm sorry to tell you that, but the more people understand that, the more people can prepare, the more people can accept the reality of the situation, the migrant crisis is not going to get any better.
Show you, we're seeing some images there. Another image of, you can hear the sounds of explosions. Just take a look at this.
Affrontement en direct, police avec les migrants.
Can you imagine, right, if that was your cul-de-sac, if that was your house, if that was your street, night after night, they're having to put up with this sort of violence?
This is the town of Petit Grand Philippe.
So just so everybody knows, the town he's talking about, I think he called Petit Grand Philippe. We actually got, when I was driving around last week, whenever it was, I can't remember. When I was driving around, we actually got lost in this town, in this little, yeah, it is a town. You know, we actually got lost in this town. So I do actually know these streets pretty well.
Not too far from Grand Fort Philippe, which is the location where we saw the tear gas being deployed at the weekend. And this is another example just in recent days of the disorder that people are facing in these towns around Dunkirk and around Calais. Violence and clashes with the police. Cars belonging to local residents are being smashed up on a nightly basis.
Cars belonging to the local residents are being smashed up on a nightly basis. That's what he said, not me.
There are riot police in the early hours of the morning in these locations, firing, as I say, volleys of tear gas, the explosions you heard at the start there. Look at these fully clad riot police with their shields going into these neighbourhoods, across back gardens to confront these migrants who are getting increasingly violent.
So did you hear that's what he said there, guys? You know, these riot police are coming into people's back gardens to confront migrants who are becoming increasingly violent. I literally said these exact words like 2-3 weeks ago whenever I was in France. Can you imagine it now, guys? And look, you know, I'm giving you guys the reality. I'm giving you guys the fact checks. Can you imagine right now, all right, looking into your back garden, and there's 4 or 5 migrants in your kids' Wendy house, or they're in your back garden, and you phone the police, and now you've got police with riot shields, and they're having like a pitched sword and sandals battle in your back garden. How do you feel about that? Put yourself in that situation, guys. You know, your back garden, you open the curtains, or I don't know, you're tucking your daughter into bed, right? You're tucking your little girl into bed. Come on, Susie, you know, you're tucking her in. Oh, yeah, you know, oh, yeah, little story. You're just about to close the window. You're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that this morning. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to go out there with some milk and bread? You're going to be terrified. Like he just said on here, you know, armed police, no, sorry, not armed police. These public order clad police are trudging through people's back gardens. They're his words, not mine. I'm not saying this. These are his words. I don't want to get a knock on the door and say I've been saying something I've not. What I'm doing is I'm responding to GB News. But can you imagine how you would feel if you're imagine if you're a single woman, or imagine if, like, God forbid, you're not a single woman, but you've married a soy boy, or you're in a relationship with a soy boy, and you know, he's about as much use as a pogo stick on a coffin. Can you imagine that? You know, you'd be terrified.
And that's why local residents are understandably upset about the provision of these facilities at the biggest migrant camp in the area, because, Martin, what they say is far from deterring migrants from crossing the English Channel. It's going to encourage many, many more to come, knowing that, you know, they're looked after. And once they get into the water, we know they're escorted across the English Channel by the French to UK waters, where they're picked up by the British and then taken to Dover Harbour.
So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was a fair-based analysis of the situation on the ground in Calais. Look, guys, if you're joining us for the first time, I'm sorry, but things are going to get worse with regards to the migrant crisis, because right now, we've no idea what's coming. And that's the reality. Like, most people have no idea what's coming. You've no idea the lengths people will go, and we kind of, you get, so I don't know, it's not cognitive dissonance. It's when you say something to someone, you say, "Oh, that man will do that." You think, no man's going to do that. Yeah, you wouldn't do that, but other people would. And here's the thing, guys. Okay, here's the kicker. All right, here's the absolute kicker. We are paying for this ourselves with our tax money. We're paying for this with our tax money. Right, let me jump down, guys. I'm going to get a few comments and then I'm going to jump onto my opening monologue. Linda Lou is saying, yeah, look, guys, Linda Lou here is saying our back garden backs out onto a park. The dinghy boys are always hanging around the park. I mean, that's like, why do they always hang around parks? Are always hanging around the park. I keep the back door locked. Absolutely. Keep the doors locked, guys. Keep the doors locked. I keep the back door locked because they only have to jump over the fence. It's scary. Look, guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are right now. Remember, it's not illegal. If a migrant tries to make entry into your house, it's not illegal. It's a civil matter, and then you have to pursue them through the civil courts, assuming there's no crime committed in the house. Oh, hang on. Donna's throwing out, saying, Donna's jumping in, saying, Britain new equalities chief warns against demonization of migrants and labeling migration a threat. Look, I think we all know what's happening. I think we all know what's happening right now. I do. I don't think anybody's under any illusion what's happening. What I will say at this point is, in fact, can you guys remember when I started? Look, guys, I'll be real with you, fam. You hearing me one time? Can you guys remember how when I first started talking, and this is going to segue into my opening monologue. I've not even done my opening monologue yet. Can you guys remember when I first started talking about how people in Britain have no legal framework to protect themselves from a tyrannical government? And when we started this conversation on the channel, a lot of you guys were, and because we don't have a constitution, a lot of you guys on the channel were saying, "Oh, Sean, we have the English constitution." And then over time, I've explained to everyone that we don't have an English constitution. We have documents that form the English constitution, but there is no one document that is called the English constitution. It doesn't exist. Trust me, it doesn't exist. And if you guys want to know what the legal methods to oppose a tyrannical government is, it's voting. Literally, go on ChatGPT, Grok, whatever, speak to anyone, all right? The main way to oppose tyranny in this country is to vote out the government, right? Yeah? You guys know where I'm going. The government, there's rumors right now. In fact, let me get this video up. There's rumors right now that the government are cancelling more elections. Is it that one? Yeah, it's only a short video, so it segues on well. So like we were talking about then, guys. Okay, so here in the United Kingdom, we have no way to oppose a tyrannical government. The only way that we can really oppose the government is at the ballot box. Now, it turns out...
understand it, that is taking place right across the country. So
Are you entirely comfortable, Jeff Toone, as a former cabinet minister, that the government is now proposing that up to elections in up to 63 districts could be cancelled in May because of reorganisation?
Did you hear that, guys? 63 elections could be cancelled in May. Did you hear that? 63 elections could be cancelled in May. I'm just going to leave this first bit, guys, because I'm just conscious of the time. I'll replay it.
Are you entirely comfortable, Jeff Toone, as a former cabinet minister, that the government is now proposing that up to elections in up to 63 districts could be cancelled in May because of reorganisation of local government?
Okay. I don't really care about his response. 63 local elections could be cancelled. 63 local elections, okay? Keep that in your mind with the other elections that have been cancelled. So now you think about it. Remember when I started saying, like months ago, what legal framework do you have to oppose a tyrannical government? And the only real way we have is voting. So when they stop, and look, guys, I'm not saying this. I'm saying that the guy on GB News is saying that 63 elections in the United Kingdom may be cancelled in May. So now, if they cancel elections, how do you voice your opinion? How do you voice your opinion if they can't cancel elections? You know, hang on, before I do this is quite funny. I'm just reading this comment, guys. This is not my opinion. Whether I share this opinion, I may or may not share this opinion. But Leroy Footlong is saying, who would have thought a gay prime minister could do this much damage? I don't know why that tickled me. Templar Matt is saying, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, so expect the worst. Get yourself prepared. Don't get yourself armed, guys. Under no circumstances. Look, guys, I get this all the time. If you want to prepare yourself, if you want to get yourself ready, all right, get yourself an extended fuel tank in your vehicle. Right, look, guys, I'm going to jump. The time is swizzling past. It's almost 30 minutes past. Right. I'm gonna give my opening monologue right now. I'm gonna give my opening monologue. Before I do that, before I give my opening monologue, because I have to cover my back, all right, my opening monologue is going to be commentary. So my opening monologue is going to be commentary on this article here. They're doing nothing. Labour blasted over appalling migrant crisis efforts as French police clash with asylum seekers. And it's an interview with this gentleman here, Jeff Banks, okay? So the whole commentary, my whole opening monologue, all right, is response to what this guy Jeff Banks said. So if anybody wants to knock on my door, I'm just giving commentary on what Jeff Banks said, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, let me speak plainly about the escalating migrant crisis that's gripping our nation. The Labour government under Keir Starmer is being rightly scolded for standing idle. I don't think I can use better words. Standing idle and doing absolutely nothing to stem the tide. Just look at the words, of this guy Jeff Banks, and if you guys want to watch that interview, it's an interview he did on GB News. He's a former BBC presenter and businessman who branded the situation as appalling. I'm not branding it appalling, guys. Jeff Banks is branding it appalling. In his chat with GB News, with a staggering, I think it was like, not yesterday, but maybe the day before, 700 more migrants came, and I think today or yesterday it was 800. I lose track. Now, these migrants crossing the channel, the total number of asylum seekers who have made that journey this year stands at over 41,000. Look, guys, try and visualize 41,000 people. Try and visualize a football stadium of about 41,000 people. And then imagine those people all at once, boom, turning up in Dover or wherever. The numbers are phenomenal, guys. The numbers are phenomenal. It's a crisis that is intensifying day by day. And look, ladies and gentlemen, I make no apologies in this, all right? And I'm sorry, but this is the truth. The situation's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. It is. So GB News, you guys saw the videos there. GB News uncovered a tense clash between French police and a large group of migrants trying to launch boats near Dunkirk. Yet, despite all the promises from Starmer, can you remember when he got elected and he was like, "Yeah, we're going to smash the gangs"? I was like, mate, I don't think Keir Starmer can smash anything. I'm not going to say anything about Rent Boys and him getting smashed himself in a slightly different thing. I would never say that because that's not confirmed. So I'm not. And anybody who says that, that's fake news. And you guys are, you guys are just not diverse. You're not with the. So I'm not going to say that. But, you guys can all remember when Keir Starmer stood up there and he was talking about smashing the gangs. He was talking about, net zero. I don't know if he was talking about net zero migration, actually. But he was talking about they're going to, Keir Starmer's going to stop the boats and smash the gangs. Turns out they've done, they've actually got more boat crossings this year. So we've seen absolutely zero action. And that's a quote from Jeff Banks. I've got to be clear about that. We've witnessed firsthand through investigative reports by me. I did an investigative report out there, just in case you guys missed it. How these camps are flourishing, how there's no stopping them. Other reports have said that they're rife with guns and gangs operating with total impunity. The French do occasionally step in, but that's in spite of 700 million that we give them each year. 700 million. I would stop this for $1 million each year. It would cost me £1 million a year to stop this. It would. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get that money off the government. I would have to get that money off you guys. I would have to get donations for that. And that is a tall order. But look, guys, be under no illusion. I can stop the migrant crisis. I would form a non-government organization, and I would hit these people in the courts. I would hit their NGOs. I would take their NGOs to court. I would take for example, those toilets that have been provided to the migrants in northern France. I would go with them. I'd say, right, okay, I'm going to take you guys to court. I'm going to take the provider to court. Why? Because you're not providing sufficient toilet paper. You're not doing, you're not up to French health and safety standards. You're not taking consideration for X, Y, and Z. I would make it so expensive for these guys to operate. They would just say no. And again, I know that's not the big headline that you guys want to see. I know that's not the big slashing the boats and, waving our flags. I get it, guys. But look, let's just be under no illusion. They took Al Capone down for tax evasion. Sometimes you have to think outside the box to take, there's more than one way to skin a cat. But that's so 700 million we're sending to the French each year. It's an outrageous state of affairs. And frankly, we haven't done nearly enough to safeguard our own borders. This has to end. More must be done. And that's what Jeff Banks is saying. And look, guys, I'll be quite clear with you guys right now. It will end at some point. Now, I don't know how that's going to end, but it will end at some point. We're either all going to be stood shoulder to shoulder with people who don't speak our language. Literally like, all right, mate, how long have you been here? All right, 3 days. All right, how about you? Oh, yeah, literally. That's either going to be how it's going to end, or something else. Now, this guy, Jeff Banks, he's commending GB News reporter Patrick Christie for his work exposing the chaos on the French coastline. And I think he should commend me as well for going out there. I think he should commend me as well. Patrick Christie's trips have been riveting, peeling back the layers to reveal the grim reality. If one journalist for GB News can get this close and show us the truth, why on earth aren't our authorities stepping up to stop this at source? Instead, it feels like we're just ushering them in once they arrive. Again, guys, that's not me saying that. That's this guy, Jeff Banks. I have to be clear about that. Now, I want to turn to another guy. I think his name's Ed Gemmell. He's the leader of the Climate Party. He pointed out one silver positive in that the French police do intervene sometimes. You know, they actually did something for once, showing us a spark of action across the channel. But so you guys can remember a couple of months back when the French police actually did something, and it was all over the news. It was all over the news. Oh, finally, the French police have stopped a rubber dinghy. Yeah. Kind of like they're not doing that anymore now. But it just shows that if you want to stop these boats, you can. The problem is nobody wants to stop them. They don't, because nobody wants to stop them. But it does, overall, it's been absolute disastrous. You know, as soon as the weather improves, the crossings will spike again. We did have like a little lull. I think it was 28 days with no crossings. But clearly the problem is, and then Keir Starmer saying, our 1 in 1 out policy is clearly working because we've not had a boat migrant for 28 days. They're obviously, no, mate, it's the weather. It's genuinely the weather. And again, you know, the guys who are going out, the raise the colours guys, I'm certainly not being negative. I'm actually being positive about those guys. I think they're doing a great thing. They are letting people understand what the situation is out on the ground. It's not sustainable, guys. The only way for a sustainable outcome to stop the boats is to form an NGO, form a non-government organisation, and hit these guys where it hurts. Do you know where it hurts these guys? In their pockets. So this guy again, Ed Gemmell, he hit the nail on the head about our own defences. We're not beefing up our border guard enough. I think we have like 150 guards patrolling our entire coastline. That's embarrassing, you know. That is absolutely embarrassing. It's ridiculous. You know, he's saying it demands urgent fund. Everything needs funding. It doesn't need funding. It just needs managing better. I hate that when people say things need more funding. You know, we should be looking at countries like Denmark for inspiration, adopting a holistic plan to deter arrivals at every level. I do think that's fair. Rather than arrivals turning up and getting given a hotel room, nice heating, 3 meals a day, a nice phone. I'm not saying that, guys. I'm saying that other people on the internet have said that. What I think should happen is just leave them on the beach, arrest them, put them in a tented camp secured by the military. I think that would be the first step to do. At every level, guys, you know, this needs to be dealt with. Yeah, I don't think there's a one answer. When they get to the United Kingdom, that's what I'm talking about now. So the simple solution is stop this at source. You form an NGO in northern France, in Calais, and you deal with it that way. You make things as difficult as possible for the other NGOs. And you run. You run on a woke agenda. You say, look, we only want these toilets for our migrants to be safe. And we feel those toilets are not safe. So the company that's providing those toilets, they need to come out and change them because they're not safe. They're just not safe. And you go in there, you inspect the toilets, every little scratch you find, oh, that's a health and safety hazard. There's rust on those hinges. Somebody could hurt their hand. You know, if they hurt your hand, we're going to take you to court, and then you get money from the system and you say, right, we're going to take you to court. Nobody wants to supply toilets anymore, so you don't get any toilets. Okay, look at these bins, right? These bins, under French law, these bins need to be emptied so many times a day. They need to be this far away from water. They actually need to be... We make it so expensive, so difficult for these other NGOs to operate They don't operate because they're all wanting to take a bottom line. But here's where it gets it. Here's how I'm going to tie all this in now, guys. All right. Here's where it gets like darker. Here's where it gets darker. All right. Like I just said earlier, I think 63 elections, local elections are rumored, allegedly. From GB News, from what's his name? What's that guy's name? I don't know. Is it Peter? I don't know what his name is. But he's saying, not me, guys. I'm not saying this. I wouldn't contradict anything Keir Starmer says. I don't want to get a knock at the door. I don't. I really don't. But that guy from GB News is saying that 63 local elections could be cancelled in May. How on earth are ordinary people supposed to voice their opinion and hold the government to account if our democratic channels are under threat? Answer me that, guys. So, when I started talking about this, maybe like it might have even been a year ago, when I started talking about how people in the United Kingdom have no legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government, sure, I think it's quite clear now we don't. One of the things, and again, if you go on ChatGPT or whatever, you put it in, how do people oppose a tyrannical government in the United Kingdom? And they say, oh, well, the first way is to have elections. All right, the elections have been cancelled. All right, okay. So we can't even do that, right? Okay. The second thing, lobby your local MP. Yeah, good luck with that. Absolutely good luck with that, ladies and gentlemen. See how far that one gets you. So if we have no, and even if the sketchy procedure that we may or may not have had, if that doesn't work, literally, ladies and gentlemen, do you see now what I was talking about months ago? Literally, no elections. No elections, no way to oppose the government. The government have the monopoly on violence, no constitutional rights. We might as well just do what we're told. Otherwise, you get the jackboot on the neck. Wasn't it George Orwell who said the vision of the future is the boot? I think it was George Orwell, and he said the vision of the future is the boot constantly pressed down on the neck. I think he said something like that. But look, guys, let me leave you with this again. I'm going to close my opening monologue, okay? And this is the truth, right? This is a sobering truth. I don't care what anybody says, because if anybody says anything different to what I'm saying right now, they're wrong. And I will argue. We in the United Kingdom have no legal framework to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. That statement is true. That statement is true, and it will always be true until we get some sort of until we get some sort of constitution. And by constitution, I mean a real constitution that's written down and it says Constitution of the United Kingdom, and it's taught in schools. Until that day, ladies and gentlemen, we have no legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government. Right, guys, I'm just going to jump onto something real quick here. Where is it? That one? Right. I'm just going to jump onto this real quick. Now, I'm just going to share this because it's something. I grew up in Rotherham, right? You guys know I grew up in Rotherham, so I'm just going to share this. This was breaking news like 2 hours ago, okay? Now, first of all, we get numb to these things, right? We do. We get numb to these things. These headlines are out and we get numb to them. We get numb to them. I just want to share some things that he says. So first of all, men jailed for doing that thing to a teenage girl in Rotherham, right? Where have we got? 2 men have been jailed for doing the thing to a girl in Rotherham more than 2 decades ago, right? So 20 years ago. So these guys 20 years ago were 24. So look, I'm just going with what this article says, all right? And yes, I get it, right? I get it. You guys are going to go, oh, Sean, why are you sharing the BBC? I'm sharing the BBC because it's public. If I share the BBC, I can't get done for fake news or anything. And I get the contradiction. I get the oxymoronical statement. But if I can get my point across and use the BBC, I will. You'll see where I'm going in a minute. It doesn't really matter when I'm using the BBC. So this is from I think it's from over 1 hour ago, but it says 1 hour ago. I think it's like 2 hours ago. So 2 men have been jailed for doing the thing to a girl in Rotherham more than 2 decades ago. Okay, so 20 years ago. Kasser Ajib, 44. So I'm going to assume he was 24 at the time, right? So he was 24 at the time. Mohammed Mahmoud, 43. I'm going to assume he was 23 at the time. Abused the girl over a period of more than 2 years, starting in 1999 when she was 14. All right? Tell me if my maths is wrong, guys, okay? Tell me if my maths is wrong. So, what is a 24-year-old man and a 23-year-old man doing looking at a 14-year-old girl? For me, someone who is, I self-identify as white Christian, I can't even, in my head, I can't even think I can't even think how that, I can't even think how that, chain of events happens to, be in that situation. I don't even know. Oh, look, guys, I'll let you guys know. When I was 24, I was a junior commander in the parachute regiment. I was leading a section of 8 men. And we were taking and breaking. We were doing some wild shit. All right? So I'll just read this here. Ajib gave her alcohol and did the thing in an alleyway. Mahmoud did the thing in a graveyard. So here's the thing. After spotting her at a bus stop and inviting her to smoke a cigarette. How does that work? If you're like a 24-year-old man, right? You're a 24-year-old man. You're walking past a bus stop and you see a 14-year-old girl. How does that conversation start? I don't get it. I don't get it, guys. I don't get it. How does that conversation start? When I was 24, honestly, it's so... in my head, I can't even, I struggle to picture how this thing even works. It makes me sick every time I see it, guys. It makes me absolute sick. Right, listen, guys. I'm going to jump up and get some chat. Right, what have we got? Who have we got chatting? We've got Roberts. Saying there's only one way out of this, and it's to fight like our soldiers and ancestors. Look, I think we're heading that way. I do. I really do think we're heading that way. I don't want to be heading that way. I would much rather we build spaceships. I would. I'm not going to lie, guys. I would much rather we... Guys, I need the toilet. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, will you guys do me a real big favor and wait there while I go to the toilet? Because I really need the toilet. I've needed it for quite a while. I'm going to need to the toilet. I'm going to come back. I'm going to get myself a carbonated drink, and then we're going to continue, okay? Hold that thought. I'll be back. Somebody tell a joke. Who knows a good joke? Who knows a good joke? Come on. Somebody put a joke in the comment, guys, and I'll be back after the toilet. Right. Ah, shit. Hang on. Oh. Right, let me jump down, guys. I do apologise. I had to jump off. Look, Robert7961 is saying there is only one way out of this, and that is to fight like our soldiers and ancestors did. I mean, when the government and the people who are supposed to be in charge of us are taking away look, JFK said it best. When a government makes peaceful revolution impossible, they make violent revolution inevitable. And I don't see any other way around it. You know, I don't see any other way around it. And I'm certainly not saying that should be a thing. I would much rather that Keir Starmer put the boats on our boats, our ships, our navy on the border, said, right, we're having no more migrants come. We're getting rid of all the people that are in here that shouldn't be in here. And we are going to look after the people in this country that pay the taxes in this country, rather than the people from this country paying the taxes to look after people that don't come from this country. Because it doesn't make sense. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see that happening, guys. I really don't. I don't see that happening. Enold the Saxon is saying, look, guys, I don't know if you know what this thumbnail is here, but this is a thumbnail of Sid the Sexist, and I love Sid the Sexist. I love Sid the Sexist. He was like one of the old Viz cartoons. If you guys have not watched Sid the Sexist, it's pretty cool. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep had fallen on you. You are many, ye are many, they are few. Not one piece of immigration law has ever been voted for from 1946. Commonwealth Act until now not being in. All right, I look, guys, I wouldn't be able to comment on that. I don't know. Trevor Pritchard is saying, Sean, the space race as it stands is nothing to do with us. It's private companies with their own agendas. How much cash you got? SpaceX is a good ride, I hear. Think how much money we waste in the United Kingdom. So look, guys, in the United Kingdom, we've just spent 5.5 billion on Ajax, which is probably going to get shit canned, and they're probably just going to scrap everything, or or General Dynamics will probably use the this is probably what's going to happen, actually. Look, guys, you guys that are on right now, remember me saying this, okay? Remember me saying this, all right? This is probably what's going to happen with this Ajax vehicle. So Ajax is probably going to get canned by the government. The government are probably just going to cancel it and say, look, it's been an absolute waste of time. It's been a waste of money. We don't want it. Thank you very much, but we're good. That means that the British government have just given General Dynamics 5.5 billion and received nothing, which means that Britain have just spent 5.5 billion of our taxes and given that to General Dynamics, and General Dynamics have not given them anything. Right? That's just I think that's the most likely outcome. What I think General Dynamics will then do is sell the Ajax vehicle as it is to another country. I think that's what's coming, guys. I do. I think that's what's coming. Roberts is saying there are no gangs. The only gang is the government and the NGOs. Look, guys, absolutely, I will say this again and again and again. The only way to stop the boats, look, guys, imagine right now we set up our own NGO in northern France. Raven for Calais. Brits for Calais, Christians for Calais, Christian Alliance, Britain and Calais Alliance, or whatever. You can call these whatever you want. And we focus on providing security and monitoring for the people of northern France because nobody else is doing that. So every morning we have drone footage uploaded onto our website. We have an interactive map. People can see where their money's going. And every morning we're out on the beaches. We're patrolling the beaches. Any contraband we find, outboard motors, jerry cans full of diesel, rubber dinghies, we dispose of them as per government guidelines. These toilet blocks and shower blocks and all these facilities that they're giving to the NGOs, we go in there and we just fucking audit them. And look, guys, I've dealt with a lot of people who do this, and you can really be anal about this. You using existing law, you can close pretty much anywhere down by health and safety. You can, anywhere you can close them down with health and safety. It's real easy. And that's the direction of travel. It's not the best thing. Everybody wants, you guys, I know you do. Don't lie to me and tell me you don't want to see this. You all want to see that the raise the flags guys going down there, waving their flags, and Tommy Robinson at the front waving. You all want to see that, right? It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, guys. It's not going to happen. The real way to do these things is to use these legal frameworks against the people that use them against you. People don't do it. People don't do it. Enetholdo. What? How do you pronounce that word? Enetholdo. I'm going to call him Ernie the Saxon. I'm just going to call this guy Ernie the Saxon because I can't pronounce that word. Ernald the Saxon. Right. Arnold the Saxon is saying a nation is not defined solely by its geography, but by the spirit of its character and its people. I think that's true. Millie Mono has changed her picture to a. That's quite scary. AJ is saying success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. Look, guys, I'm jumping off topic, but did anybody watch? Did anybody see Andrew Tate's speech after he lost against that guy Chase? I don't see anything wrong. When you listen to that guy, Andrew Tate, talking, you're like, yeah, I totally relate to you, 100%. He's quite funny, but he lost and he was very humble in defeat. He was very humble in defeat. Oh, hang on. Rick Audits is saying, I get what you're saying about setting up your own NGO, but what RTC are doing is more realistic way of doing it. Raising funds of 1 million plus would take longer than okay, right. So, Rick, those guys from Raise the Colours are going to get arrested, all right? And look, let me be clear. So, Rick, let me be quite clear from the get-go, mate. I 100% support those guys that are going out there with Raise the Colours. They are doing, and I agree what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, if let's just say Raise the Colours turned into an NGO, right? I know how to set these up, guys. I know how to set these up. I've done it all over the world. I've set them up in, I've set these camps up and man management, all the rest of it. I've done these for the military in Afghanistan, in Iraq. I've done them for private companies in Ukraine, in Syria. What else have I done? All over the world, right? I know how these things work. So just for example, let's say that Raise the Colours turned into an NGO. They would be doing exactly the same thing, but they would have that legal protection to operate. All right. So Raise the Colours are going out there. I don't know where they're getting their money from, but if you arrest the leaders of Raise the Colours, that's it. They're done with. And raising £1 million it's not a lot of money, guys. Raising £1 million is not a lot of money. It really isn't. It's not a lot of money. If you consider this, Rick _audit. So Rick Audit, imagine right now, buddy, right? All those people that went down to Tommy Robinson's march in London, it was Unite the Kingdom, right? The high-end estimates were that there were 3 million people there. I'm not convinced about that number, but let's just say, for example, there were 3 million people. Let me put it into this context, all right? For those 3 million people, how much money do you think those 3 million people spent on food, transport, petrol, diesel, train tickets, hotels, beers, food, restaurants? How much do you think they spent going down there each? For 3 million people, and what did they achieve? Literally, and I'm not, honestly, guys, like, I give you guys the reality, and like, I give you guys a sobering analysis. Like, what did they achieve? What was achieved? Since that march, Unite the Kingdom march, what's been achieved now? What's different because of that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So let's go with the high-end estimate, right? High-end estimate, 3 million. If each one of those 3 million people chipped in 33 pence, we stop the boats for a year. You see how this is easy? Like raising £1 million, it's not that difficult. He's a misogynistic pig. Supernatural 7 is saying, I think Supernatural 7 is talking about Andrew Tate here. So what has he said that's misogynistic? Tell me one thing that Andrew Tate said that's misogynistic. Trevor Pritchard is saying military technology is 30 plus years ahead of the mainstream. Just imagine what we could be living in. Yeah. I don't know if you guys know, but Google was set up as Google was set up as a US military project. Really? Oh, that saddens me, guys. That absolutely saddens me. Girl 14 told to go back to Ukraine by 3 yobs in brutal attack after school trip. That's disgusting, guys. That really is disgusting. Again, I hear you, but Tommy Robinson has had dono pages set up. Look, guys, I'm not saying. Look, guys, let me be quite clear, right? I'm not saying, you've got, where do I go with this, right? So, I'm not, right, there's so many things I want to talk, there's so many aspects I want to go on this. I'm not taking anything away with those people from those people who went down to, who went down to the Unite the Kingdom rally. I'm not, absolutely nothing. He's saying, I hear you again, but Tommy Robinson had donation pages set up. If each one of them donated, he'd have enough money to fund his court cases. So first of all, yeah, I agree. People don't. I agree. People don't donate to these things because why would they? But you've got to understand how this NGO infrastructure and the ecosystem works. You can apply for government funding. You absolutely can apply for government funding. You know, you can go through the legal routes. You can go through the... And look, guys, I've done like... Look, guys, for an NGO to raise £1 million in funding, it's totally different to asking people to donate to Tommy Robinson to get him out of prison. I'd say to Tommy as well, stop getting yourself in prison. He's smart enough to not get himself in prison. He is. He's smart enough not to get himself in prison, but he always gets himself in prison. Do you know what? Listen, Rick, I agree with what you're saying. Do you know what, actually, Rick? I do agree with that. People would rather spend money on themselves. And I totally agree that. And that's kind of the problem that we're in at the moment. People are selfish and people don't think about the greater good. You know, people think about themselves and their children. And they're not thinking about the greater good. For example, for a good example, you know, one of the main reasons why we're in this pickle at the moment is because men won't stand up. You know, men won't stand up and say, do you know what, this is bullshit. I'm not doing that. And do you know why the men won't stand up? Because they have bills to pay. They have mortgages. They have rent to pay. They have cars on bloody finance loans that they shouldn't really be driving. You know, so if they lose their job by standing up and doing the right thing, they've lost their family. So we are shackled. We have financially shackled ourselves. We really financially shackled ourselves. The solution to stop the boats, ladies and gentlemen, is to start an NGO. There will be a donor out there somewhere. I can guarantee you there'll be a donor out there on a hedge fund. You know, there'll be a donor out there on a hedge fund who's got deep pockets, who will say, right, I'm in for £1 million. Because, you know, don't forget, you know, with stopping the boats, there's a business opportunity there as well. You know, there's a business opportunity there as well. There's all sorts of opportunities to recoup that money. Yeah, I spoke about this earlier, Googleinos. It's quite to me, this is quite phenomenal. You know, how 6 minut, budь láska. Googleinos is saying two men. So Googleinos basically is talking about the article I shared with you guys from. I'll do it again. Actually, I'll share this with you guys again. So Googleinos is talking about this article here. Men jailed for doing the thing. I mean, look at their pictures. Look at him on the right. Honestly, where's the parents at? But, you know, I mean, this was like 1999. I think we was like peak woke at 1999. Everybody was just enjoying themselves, right? Everybody was just enjoying themselves in 1999. But, like, what does a 44-year-old man... Sorry, at the time he was 24. What does a 24-year-old man see in a 14-year-old girl? It's like, to me, it does... I don't even get it. Can you guys remember when you were like, you know, I mean, when you was like, I don't know, like 14, 15, there was like the, what was it, like Nuts, an FHM magazine, and everybody was looking in the Nuts and FHM magazines. Nobody was looking at the nurseries. Nobody was looking at primary school. We weren't doing that. You know, we were not doing that. Roberts is saying power is distributed among the executive Oh, he's talking about America here. And while a single written constitution does not exist, a framework of law. Yeah, okay, right, okay. So we're talking about the English Constitution here. Yes. And there we have it, there, guys. Okay, and while a single written constitution does not exist, a framework of laws, conventions, and independent institutions limits the government overreach. But look, guys. The problem with the way that Britain is set up at the moment is the way that Britain is set up at the moment is we don't have a constitution. Now, in America, they teach that constitution at school. So there's no misinterpretation. There's no difference in, oh, I see this interpreted and this is another thing. Leroy, I agree with you, buddy. Leroy, I agree with you, mate. I agree with, for once, I agree with Leroy. I don't usually agree with Leroy, but I am doing tonight. I'm agreeing with Leroy. And Google is saying Russia pledges full support for Venezuela against U.S. hostilities. So I think the United States have now taken three Venezuelan oil tankers, which I'm not going to lie, guys. I think that's theft. I do. I think, I've got an update actually from my friend in Venezuela. Hang on. Yeah, so my friend in So my friend in Venezuela, he got robbed the other day. They took all his cameras and they took his camera, his phone, and he had a drone as well. So they took that as well. So he's not having a good time out there in Venezuela. So maybe Trump needs to go in there and get his camera back. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, the time is ticking. Do you know what? I'm going to stay on a little bit longer until I've drank this, which is not going to be long. Right, hang on. I've got some more things up here. Am I going to share these? I've done that one. We've done that one. I'll share this actually. So I'm gonna switch topic and talk. I'm just gonna go through these guys real quick. So I'm going to switch topic to the war in Ukraine. Now, a few of the things I've said on this channel is Britain is going to be Britain have that best strike capability, that force projection. So the defense secretary the other day came out and said, I quote,
and talking of readiness, our NATO allies, France and Germany, they're in the process of bringing in a form of voluntary service. Should the UK be doing the same?
My judgment is we don't need to do that.
That's his judgment. Remember, look at the language, guys. Look at the language. My judgment.
We've got a great professional forces. Our job now is to make sure that they are well equipped, better able and ready to warfight, and play a bigger part as part of NATO to deter adversaries in the future.
I do think it's going to come, guys. You know, I do think this conscription thing is going to come. You've got to understand how conscripts work. They don't work how normal. Okay, so think about a special forces operation, right? I don't know. Let's just say a multi-domain special forces operation. Let's just say let's give a bread and butter. Let's just say it's going to be a compound assault. All right. And this is a hypothetical scenario, right? Hypothetical scenario. Just say you're going to have a military attack on a compound or a village or a town or a settlement. You know, first of all, you're gonna suppress that with air support. You're gonna send in Storm Shadow. You're gonna send in missiles. You're gonna try and take out as many of their defenses as you can. You're then gonna move in your infantry as close as possible. You're then gonna start to bombard that with your, with your artillery, your mortars, whatever you can. Once that bombardment is relatively complete, you're then going to send in your CH-47 Chinook helicopters. They're either going to abseil, they're either going to fast rope out onto the rooftops, go down through the buildings, or they're going to just land on. They're going to stove those helicopters in. All the guys are going to run off the back. They're going to be shooting. There's going to be a lot of shooting. Then the rest of the green military are going to move up. They're going to make a security perimeter around that village or that settlement. The special forces guys in the middle are going to clear it. And everything's going to be dealt with. That is a very technical operation. You've got so many things that can go wrong. It's a very technical operation. And you can't have any geek off the street. You've got to be handled with steel, you know what I mean? And you keep. Yeah, I just said that. So in that context, you can't just have conscripts. Like, it's not going to work having conscripts fast rope out of a helicopter into a hot DZ and start shooting their way through buildings. It's not going to work. So what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a big recruitment campaign. They're going to get as many willing and able-bodied people. They're going to push them through. And then after that, they're going to try and have the conscript army push through. Sean, what was your favorite thing about being in Poland? The beer, the Polish are, to be honest, it's those. I like the sausage. Yeah, I do. I'm going to say it's the Polish sausage. I like the Polish sausage. Should I be saying that? Is somebody going to do an edit that Sean likes the Polish sausage? I'm going to say it's the food. Guys. One thing that made me really sad about going to Poland and just walking around Krakow was how how do I put this? If you walk around a Christmas market in the United Kingdom, you are inundated with these diversity barriers, these chicanes. It's ridiculous. You can't get anywhere. You can't get anywhere. So, one of the things, and I did point it out quite a lot, was just how much trust there is. I would say it's a high trust society. Yeah, I would say that, so again, I don't mean to be negative. So if you're asking me what my favorite thing is, I'm going to say it's the Polish sausage. I am. I was eating loads of it. Jesus, I'm digging a hole for myself, right? I'm going to say one thing that made me sad was looking at how beautiful white Christians can make things. Yeah, do you know what? I think I should probably start with this. Looking at how beautiful white Christians can make a society. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful architecture, beautiful culture, high trust, nobody bogling, nobody stabby, nobody rammy, no fear of stabby or rammy, nobody walking around in balaclavas doing drill rap. That's how white Christians make a society, and it's fucking beautiful. And the sad thing is, I think that's superior, and I think everywhere should have that. I don't want to have drill music at Christmas. I don't want to have to walk through diversity barriers at Christmas, because every time you see one of those diversity barriers, it reminds you while they're there. Why they're there. Oh, Donna is saying the UK is not ready to defend itself from military attack amid growing fears of Vladimir Putin's plan to invade European countries. Look, guys, any country if anywhere is going to get invaded, it's going to be Poland. Yeah, that's that. I don't think that. Yeah, that's absolutely right. The United Kingdom cannot afford to bury their head in the sand, but they will absolutely do so. We will bury our head in that sand, guys, and pretend that nothing is happening. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I've been on far too long. I've been flying back. I've been doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Christmas shopping. Listen, guys, I am going to close this down now. I am going to close this down now. I'll be back on tomorrow morning. I will be back on at 10. Yes, I will, good sirs, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic. If you're on and you guys have not done so already, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share my stuff. But I've got to get Googleino's comments, so I'm going to scroll up. Does Sarah look, guys? Everybody knows I like sausage. I do. Everybody knows I like that. Look, guys, I do. Look, I love that cured. I love cured meat. I like beef jerky. I like sausage. I like ribeye. I'll do chicken every now and then, but it's a bit gay. I'm not going to lie. Listen, I know some of you guys are going to say, "Oh, Sean, I don't particularly like pork. I don't like pork." So, but yeah, I do like a good Polish sausage. I do. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. Oh, hang on. Oh, shit. Sorry, guys. Right, I'm getting this in real time. Sorry, guys. Fuck! Right, I'm going to share this with you guys. Sorry. Let me share this with you guys now, okay? At least 9 injured as car drives into light parade with air ambulance scrambled. 9 people have been injured, at least 3 serious after car drove into a crowd of people during a parade on Monday evening. The incident occurred at 7 p.m. while men